Good evening, everybody. It's 7:02. We're going to call the meeting to order. Will you please stand and join me in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Could I have, okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes from December 4th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of December 4th, subject to any corrections, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Public input and announcements. Hearing none. School Board Recognition Month. I am assuming that's what this little certificates are for. I don't know if there's anything else we're supposed to be doing with that. Our superintendent is not with us at this moment. But we will move right along. We can come back to that.
Oh, I do want to say, we got socks again.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. We have to very big thank you to Darn Tough, because that is quite a nice thing.
It is. Wonderful.
And here, we'll let, do we need to do or say anything else for School Board Recognition Month, besides we're getting socks, which we're very excited about?
I was going to cover the socks.
Hi, Amy.
Okay.
I got a whole table by
All by
myself.
himself. And then we can move on to principal updates. So, Helen, you looked up right away. You can go first.
My notes. Let's see, the fourth grade teacher that you approved, I believe in November, arrived on Monday, and we're very excited to have him join us. He's from New Jersey and experienced and well-trained and jumped right in. And it's exciting to watch him. It's great to have him on board. Let's see, winter sports, we're in the season of winter sports program. New this year for Wallingford, we're trying out, instead of 6 half-days, we're doing 3 full days, where the kids get 2 lessons in the course of a day, as well as the ability to free ski and have lunch. And that means they just go first thing in the morning and come back at the end of the day. So it just means 3 days out of the building as opposed to 6, so we'll see how it goes. This is the month of assessments, mid-year way through the year, so STAR 360 and all the universal assessments that we do. We're starting to kick those in, and we'll be doing those over the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we just agreed on a contract with Wonderfeet, we're doing a collaboration with them, where they are coming to do programs that are all STEM focused, and each class will get a particular program around science. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we got to test out our emergency procedures today by having to call an ambulance to help out with a particular situation, and I was very pleased with both the staff and the students and how everybody handled it, and all came out well. But everybody followed the procedures that they've been trained in, so it was great to, not great that we had to try it out, but they all were successful in being able to do it.
Excellent.
That's about it.
Thank you. Jody.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a while, but we're back in the rhythm of things with lots of good snow the last couple of days up at Shrewsbury. Getting excited for the winter sports program, which starts for us this coming Friday at Okemo. We will be going 6 times this year for half days. So that's always a really exciting thing. Really fun to connect all of the kids to this piece of community that is the mountains. And it's always a great time of year after the holidays for me, when I start to really wish I lived in a warm climate, and that sense of hygge, to be outside playing with kids in actual sunlight, is always so well appreciated. Before the break, our 3rd and 4th grade with Miss Austin created a really wonderful medieval feast for our entire school, and that was very exciting. The 3rd and 4th grade dressed up. They had invited a king and queen. They worked with our school chef, Tammy, to create a feast that would have been eaten in the Middle Ages. Some parent volunteers came in. All the kids had to eat with their fingers. There was some lute playing. Stained glass over the windows. It was really amazing. And we also had our all-school ice skating trip that we always do the day before the break, which is just wonderful to get to spend time together before we all go away for a little bit. Shrewsbury, as well as every school, participated in the community food drive this year, so that was just a really nice thing to do together. We are continuing on with our community guest speaker program, so we have another guest speaker coming up soon, Steve Spatz. And after spending the first half of the year really on the big idea of community in our Education for Sustainability model, we're starting to plan for what we'll do with our second big idea of the year, which will be place. So we have some exciting things coming up with a passport all-school project around place and really appreciating where we live.
Excellent, thank you. Hi, Maureen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So, Timoth is, in December, we were only for a short 3 weeks, but we did go caroling and reached out to the community, and they brought homemade cookies to everyone, or cookie jars where the participants would make their own cookies for Christmas and Hanukkah and the holidays that we celebrate. And they all sang, and were accompanied by some community members who played as well. As far as coming back, we're in the same mode, and we actually go with Shrewsbury up to Okemo, so we're looking forward to this Friday, and we're really glad to see it snowing today. And we're in the midst of doing our Focus and Pinnell testing, our 360, and we're gearing up for SBAC training of the staff so that they're prepared to take those tests. Not to take those tests, to administer those tests. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Tyler. Oh,
Stand up
Fred.
so I can
you-
see you?
Yeah, go ahead, you can go next, okay. He's so excited, he jumps right up.
I have a very short report, so I wanted to go first. We had a lot of celebrations before we left, obviously, but we did some really good community work. We raised a lot of food for the food bank. The Rutland Sheriff's Office did a fundraiser, growing beards, so that they could help support one of the camps for kids that have cancer, so they can go for free. And our school raised, I think it was about $140 or something like that. So we did that. That was really nice. The winter sports program, Clarendon's doing a little bit different this year. We've already been hiking. We've been skating. We're going to go bowling. We're going to go skating again, and then we'll hike again in the spring. So we're doing a lot of different things throughout the year that'll take maybe about half a day or so, and trying to get a wider range of what things the kids can do themselves, and more things that they'll do probably for the rest of their life kind of thing. So that's a little bit different for us, but it's working really well. We got a dance planned, well, not for another month or so, but the PTO's putting out a dance for the kids, which is going to be really pretty cool. We're testing as well, doing stuff like that. We came back very excited, and we being the staff, because we started some projects before we left, and we are hitting the ground running. Very first day, we're doing peer-to-peer observations. We had a meeting the next day, Tuesday morning, and talked about what we learned. So not only are we giving each other feedback, we're taking feedback, we're sharing with the group, and it just builds upon what we've been trying to do. Brian started us off with, trying to find a root cause of where we are and how we can improve, and we did that all end of November and December, and now we're moving right along, and everyone's just excited to do it. It's kind of fun too. So that's it.
Thank you. Tyler.
Yeah, I was short. It's funny, today I think 3 times I wrote 2019. So I think it's really funny that we're so close to June, yet so far away. And our first semester, believe it or not, is in about 2.5 weeks. The 23rd is the first day of the second semester, so it's coming very quickly. Our winter sports are up and running. Our ski team was at a meet Monday at Pico, even though it's dumping snow. Next week, if you have a basketball itching at all, we have a game every night. Due to makeups and what have you. We also have our snow coming dance for our high school kids. That's on the 18th in the multipurpose room here. As all the other principals, the other buildings mentioned, that we are jumping into STAR 360 assessments the next coming 2 weeks for progress monitoring, see where our students are in the middle part of the year. And also, believe it or not, it's 2020 and we're starting second semester soon. Our final schedule for next year is almost done, and then scheduling for that starts in the 1st of February. So everything's coming together very quickly. And one other thing with our students, it's amazing, they had 2 weeks off. You'd never guess it. If you walked in the building, it felt like it was mid-October. The students are all just humming along, and it's going very well.
Thank you.
Tyler, we had a young man participate in a national track and field event.
Yep.
I don't think we've talked about that at this.
We did recognize him at the last board meeting. He wasn't, unfortunately, not able to come for his, that was before he had actually made it to nationals.
Right.
And I believe he finished third in his age group. He ran a 15:45, and I do plan on bringing him to a board meeting here in the very near future.
I thought that was definitely worth mentioning.
Yes, he was in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was quite the experience for him. He
Third in the nation
Yes.
is really a big thing.
And when I talked to him about it, he said it was really cool to be pushed for once. And if you do the math, it's a 5K run, so 3.1 miles, a 15:40, 15:45. He's averaging a 5:10, 5:15 mile, thereabouts. I couldn't run one of those.
In the 15 minutes, right?
So yeah, he'll be coming to one of our board meetings soon.
Thank you.
And just maybe for the camera, do you want to mention his name? So
Oh
that
yeah, sorry, Brogan Giffen. Yeah.
So that anyone who was listening is like, it's great, but who is he? Well, our congratulations to him. That is quite the honor. Then we'll move on to central office reports.
Yeah, so first, Carrie Becker sent her regrets. She's overseas on a trip, so not able to be with us tonight. I suppose we can forgive that on this evening. As far as my report, obviously, we've all been out of the office for a couple weeks, which is good for everyone. I am excited. We are starting negotiations tomorrow, and I think the teachers and the board members involved, we're ready to get going and get some good work done. So that'll be positive and productive. Support staff negotiations will be right around the corner. Both of those contracts come due at the end of this school year, so we need to get those sorted out across the next couple months. And like Tyler, starting to turn some thoughts to next school year already, and thinking about what needs to happen during the summer and how we get things rolling for the fall. So I'll turn over to Brian at this point.
This is the time of year where my central office report tends to go that same direction next year, which is it's a great place to be at this time of the year, instead of scrambling to get to summer and then going, oh gosh, what are we doing next year? Having a sense of what we need to improve upon, because we have a lot of things moving in the right direction, but we're definitely not doing them perfectly. So being able to reflect a little bit and plan for next year ahead of time, great place to be. My analogy for this part of the year, maybe I've used it with the board, maybe I haven't. I think it's a roller coaster. We've gotten over the big hump, and then from here on, it's get ready, because it's going downhill. Not in a bad way. Downhill can be a good thing. And the rest of the year is going to fly by. We have a lot of things in place. You heard from principals. Testing, we're already thinking about. Our big state testing happens in March. Around that time, people are already prepping for that. So there are a lot of things rolling, and really thinking about what we're going to do next year is where I am with a lot of our folks. We came back from a long break, and sort of like Tyler said with his students, some of the realms that I interact with, technology, crickets. we had very little to come back to worry about. So, you know, we're having good conversations about, okay, what does summer work look like, things like that. So, yeah, it was a long, restful break. I was ready to come back, and it was nice to come back to things working, to be able to keep them working. Questions about anything?
Thank you. Coral?
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I don't have too much to report, but I just wanted to take a moment to call your attention. I don't know if folks are following some of the local media coverage right now around what's going on at the Brattleboro retreat. But in my line of work, you know, what's happening right now around mental health services and coverage, this is a really significant issue that has the ability to become catastrophic. Brattleboro happens to be one of the only remaining nonprofit facilities in Vermont that is licensed to provide pediatric mental health care. You know, I was just thinking yesterday, actually, you know, at any one time, I have had as many as 5 students receiving services or care from the retreat. On average, at any one time, we have at least 1 student, if not more, you know, receiving care or services there. So, you know, we don't really know what the picture is going to be for the continued operation at the retreat, but what's going on there right now, coupled with the recent closure of Woodside, which is a juvenile detention facility in the state of Vermont, this will really put a major impact on school districts in terms of what our options are to provide services and care for kids with acute and chronic mental health needs and their families. So I'm not sure where that conversation is going to go. It sort of hit right as we came back from the vacation. I'm hoping that we can find out more. There's a lot of conversations and negotiations happening on this topic this week, so we will see. Best case scenario, the retreat is looking at shutting down at least a quarter of its beds, which is significant. So we'll keep a watch on that, but if you are not following that coverage, I definitely would encourage you to come up to speed on it. It will be significant.
Any questions for Coral? Okay. Karen?
Up here from behind the camera. Well, we're clearly in the middle of winter, but things are actually going fairly well, which is somewhat surprising to me because of all the new systems that we actually put online this year. We're fine-tuning our parameters on our control systems now and adjusting set points. We're trying to find that sweet spot right now between, you know, energy conservation and providing comfort to people. So we're balancing in some buildings better than others at this point, but we're continuing to work on it, trying to keep everybody happy, but still you know, push ourselves in the right directions with our energy savings. Some of the things that we've had some success with recently are we have worked out pretty much all the kinks in our biomass system. There was a number of one thing after another type situations that seem to be occurring there, and we've got all those ironed out at this point. The thing has been running relatively well for a couple of weeks now, so things have been going well with that. We've had a success with one of our employees, that actually a brand new employee that's returned to work today for the 3rd day in a row. So for us, that's a pretty good success. We did over the winter break, over Thanksgiving and winter break, have the ability to install 10 new unit ventilators over in the Clarendon building as part of our energy project. So that was accomplished over our winter break, if you will. And we're also nearing the end of our safety projects, putting in the PA systems and camera systems in our elementary schools. So at this point, we're really starting to now look forward to and to start focusing again on our 5-year plan and to update that to be sure that we're heading in the right direction with our planning phases of things. Are there any questions?
Thank you. And then Stan.
As far as, you know, the process or the reporting for the current year, nothing has really changed since my last report. In regards to the numbers, nothing
nothing has happened to fluctuate that or change that any drastic measures. As far as, the business office, we're in the process of, closing out the calendar year and issuing W-2s and 1099s by the end of January. One item I'd like to bring up for the board is that our food service management contract with Aladdin is done with at the end of this year. So within the next couple of weeks, I will be drawing up an RFP to send that out to all the prospective vendors in the area that would bid. That process usually includes, principals from the schools that have a food service management company, and also at least one board member from that town. Right now, the food service contract serves Clarendon, Wallingford, and the high school. So if, I guess at some point, if the board can decide as to which members that would like to be on that committee to review the RFPs, that can be done at some point later, probably sometime in February that can be decided. What that entails is usually just reading the RFPs and rating them on a point system. And then we get together and calculate the scores or whatever, and then give our opinion basically on who we may select. The last time we did this, we actually brought in 2 of the vendors to do a presentation to the committee. And that's, can be done at our option if we feel we would need that. The other question that might come up, or that I'm bringing up, is also that Timoth and Shrewsbury, they run their own program. And I guess if another question for the board to maybe consider or debate is whether or not we would bring Timoth and Shrewsbury into that contract for the RFP. We could bring them in the RFP if we don't like what we see in regards to the numbers for those 2 schools. We could, not, keep things status quo where the 2 schools would run their own programs. Because it's, obviously the size of the schools would hinder, subject us to probably bigger losses because it's very hard for these food service companies to run programs at small schools. And I would assume maybe this would probably could be brought up at at the next finance meeting in regards to setting this up and maybe discussing it further.
Right. If any board members are interested in participating, with Stan and that, feel free to email you. Would that be good? And then if you have not received sufficient responses, we can have it as an agenda item and coerce some people to cooperate. But if anyone wants to, just email Stan if you're interested in participating in that.
And the key question would be whether or not you're going to have demonstrations.
I was going to say tastings.
We did the last time.
George is in.
That's
right. And then I guess that would move us into the elementary and Mill River tuition rates. So that's still Stan.
Can we put that off until budget discussion?
Okay.
The only reason why I say that is that if, depending upon how the discussion goes, that affects the tuition rate.
Okay, all right. And then we can do public school choice limits.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so we'll,
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so board members, at your seat, you have a document from me that says 16 VSA 822A Public High School Choice. This is just a decision the board's required to make every year. You can see the context. By February 1st, the board has to set limits in accordance with the statute. Just give you a little bit of data. High school enrollment here, our overall student number, I think, is about 450. Tyler can give me the exact, but our number 9 through 12 is 305 students as of October 1st. Our current numbers participating in the public school choice program, we've got 18 kids coming in. 4 of those are senior, which leaves next year's number in at about 14. Out, we've got 13 going to other schools, 2 are seniors, so that leaves that at 11. Historically, this predates me. We have set our limits as high as possible, so 40 in and 24 out. When I look at the statutory guidelines around, what you need to do to control those numbers, we can still maintain those numbers and be within the statutory guidelines and have options open to as many kids as possible, which I would certainly advocate for the board doing, whether a student wanted to come to us or had an interest in attending a different school. So I would like to request a motion from the board to approve Mill River Union High School public high school choice limits of 40 in and 24 out for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question. What, sort of looking at Ludlow becoming a force somewhere, how is that affecting this at all?
Yeah, so we currently have 9, actually scratch that, 8 public school choice in students from Black River specifically. They're a high attendee for us. So those students will transfer over to tuition students for us next year when Black River closes. And then Stan can talk about it more in the budget, but we currently are looking at about 21 students confirmed coming here, not counting the ones that are already here. 21 more coming next year. We've been told that Black River still has 30 students who have not yet decided where they're going. So there's a possibility that there may be more, but we can't count on that.
They're on the tuition side, so.
They'll be on the tuition side, yes. So all of our Black River-based kids will all be tuition-based next year because they won't have a school.
Cool.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the high school choice limits of 40 students in and 24 students out for the 2021 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Great. Next, we got draft out. In front of you, you have a two-sided document. It's a draft version of our warning and a draft version of the ballot that would go with that warning. This is just for informational purposes now. I just wanted you to be able to lay your eyes on it, look for flaws, et cetera. Ideally, we need to be in a place where we approve a budget next week at the meeting on the 15th, because we can warn starting on Saturday, the 18th, just to give you how kind of the sequence plays out. And for example, like Article 5, the unanticipated surplus and the dollar amount there, that would be something the board would decide. It's $200,000 on what you're looking at, but that's not set in stone until you set it in stone. So just want to give you a chance to see this and lay eyes on it before I ask you to approve something next week after you've approved a budget amount to be put onto this document.
Okay, so everyone should give that a look over if we see anything.
Yeah, let me know.
Let Dave know.
You got it.
Is Article 5, was that 100,000 last year?
It has been 100,000 in the past. I forget what it was last year. Stan, were we 100 or 200 on the unanticipated surplus?
It was 200 last year because we didn't do a requested amount.
Yeah, in the past, we've done both a set amount and then another request for an additional amount out of a surplus.
Yeah.
So that
That was
could be
just
whatever you decide to have it be is where we'll land on it.
This one here.
So we'll be approving this at the next.
Correct.
meeting.
We need to approve a budget first, and then
Yeah, right.
that number
We'll
will
go in there.
populate this.
Okey-doke. All right. Then, any other discussion on this or questions for Dave or anybody? Okay. We'll move on to our committee business then. So Len, do you want to do personnel?
Sure. We met this evening and have a couple of contracts to be approved. And starting with, I would make a motion to approve a contract for Cindy Van Deen, 1.0 full-time equivalency support staff as a special education para-educator at Clarendon Elementary School.
And we have Cindy here with us, by the way.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the contract for Cindy, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations.
Okay. Also in committee, we decided to bring to the board some, ask the board to approve some administrative contracts. So I'll go through those one at a time. First off is Maggie Ains, the Assistant Director of Student Services, would be being offered a 2-year contract. And I would make a motion that we do that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of approving an administrator contract for Maggie Ains, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
The next position is, I'd make a motion to approve a contract for Carrie Becker, Director of the After-School Program, for 1 year. And the reason that's a 1-year contract is because it's based on, what's the word on it?
Grant funding.
Thank you. Grant funding. So I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving administrator contract for Carrie Becker, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Next, I make a motion to approve a contract for Maureen Fitzgerald Riker as Timmins School Principal for 2 years.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you, George. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the administrative contract for Maureen, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Next, I make a motion to approve a contract for Brian Hill, Assistant Superintendent, for 2 years.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the administrative contract for Brian, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
One more. I make a motion to approve a contract for Coral Stone as Director of Student Services for 2 years.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the administrator contract for Coral Stone, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
And that's all I have.
Next meeting is?
February.
Beginning of.
The first Wednesday of.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the
Policy.
date.
Policy, I guess that's me. How's everybody doing tonight? Happy New Year, one and all. What we have tonight is some policies to approve for first reading and policy to rescind. The policies that you're voting on, the form that they're in, that you're voting on, was emailed out on December 5th to all board members. If everybody can remember back that far. I have copies here for anybody that might want to look at the individual policy. I'll go after them one at a time. The first one is F14, admission of non-resident student, non-resident tuition students. So I will move that we approve this as a first reading.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving F14 as for a first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Anyone
you.
opposed? Any abstentions?
And the next one is D13, Employee Code of Conduct. This is a new policy that the committee worked on for some time. So I would move that we approve that as a first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Involve us too?
What's that?
The code of conduct that involves us too?
For
Board
conduct
members?
on our part? Is
Yeah,
that-
on our part, yeah.
We have a policy that affects board members particularly, which I'll go into some of that in a minute. Okay.
Wait, we have to
Oh,
vote on it.
that has, I thought you had already.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving D13 employee conduct for a first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay, the next one is a policy that's up for rescinding, and it's F14.1, special education excess cost in related services for non-resident and tuition students. What we discovered in our deliberations was that we can't legally do what we're trying to do in this particular instance, so we have to rescind the policy. So I move that we rescind F14.1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of rescinding policy F14.1, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you, one and all. We met last evening and continued our work on equity a little bit, and more to come on that. We also, last night, started more work on the review of existing policies, which were required to have them all at least no older than 3 years at the present moment, unless something changes in Montpelier. So we probably did, 3, 4, we went through 6 policies, and there will be some coming up for a first reading as soon as we get out the word to folks to have a preliminary look at those policies. Probably next meeting, I think.
Might have them for next week, yep.
Yeah, we might have them for next week. Our next meeting will be the first Tuesday in February, which I don't know what the date is off. 4th? Thank you, John.
So personnel's the 5th.
And one of the things that we're talking about is some of the policies relating to board operations and conduct. So that will be coming to you via email sometime in the near future. And that's not all of them, that's the start. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Negotiations, Adrian is not here, but the negotiations committee is meeting tomorrow at 4:30, right?
4:30, yep.
For our first session with the teachers. So we're looking forward to getting that underway. Buildings and grounds. John?
We met yesterday, and pretty much what Gary said is about everything we talked about. Wasn't much more. Our next meeting will be February 4th, 6 o'clock. I'm thinking here is probably good for a little while. We'll get back out on the road when the weather gets nicer, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Community engagement. Maria?
We have had a hard time getting together, but we have a meeting this month, and we'll report back at the beginning of February.
Excellent. And when is that meeting scheduled for?
It hasn't been nailed down.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Thank you. And then we move on to the highlight of the evening, finance, the numbers.
Do the numbers first, yes. So, for the pay orders, they are dated January 8th, 2020. From the operating account, $141,334.03. Also from the operating account, it says Clarendon Bowling, $401.50. The total of the pay orders is $141,735.53. That takes us to payroll. Payroll dated January 2nd, 2020, $6,079.08. Payroll dated January 3rd, 2020, $558,994.69. The total of the payrolls is $565,073.77. I move the pay orders and payrolls be approved as read.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes. Would you like to go first, Doug, or you want me to?
You can.
Okay, thank you. I reviewed the payroll and pay orders and found everything to be in order. I did make a few notes that I'm going to throw out for folks to know about. First one was, as I was looking at the pay orders, it was very clear to me that basketball season must be starting because the gym floor just received some treatment to the tune of $3,800. So that's great for the folks that are going to be able to view that those events. The next thing, came across a new vendor. I think it's pronounced Froling Energy, and I had to guess as I thought about it that it was probably for our biomass fuel. Am I right?
For wood chips, correct.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Anyways, and then we had a bill here from GMP, Green Mountain Power, and I was saying, Gary was telling us that shortly we should have some data coming out as to the effectiveness of our solar panels. So we look forward to that. The last one was from a company called Vermont Higher Education, who is doing something for us for proficiency-based IEP. So I was just curious as to what that was, and I bet I know who could tell me.
Right at me, didn't you, George?
I did.
Yeah, so several months back, I think I had talked about it, but special education, we had been waiting for a while for some professional development to come out on proficiency-based IEP development. It finally came out, so we sent almost all of our special educators from the district to Lake Maury for 2 days for that. So that was a sizable cost
Yep.
to our PD line, but well worth it.
Okay, thank you.
That was.
And I'm done. Doug?
Yeah, same thing with you, is that there's not much going on, everything's pretty much the same, but I did notice one thing that made me a little nervous and started thinking that some of the costs of getting people down here to do things and stuff was probably double per hour what I'm getting. So I'm thinking of either raising my rates to close to that or putting in an application to start to do that. I've got 45 years doing this stuff, and I'm pretty sure I could sort of maybe excel in little spots here and there. So, other than that, everything was fine.
Yeah, right.
So all those in favor of approving the pay orders and payroll as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? There you go.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Budget. Passed out to each of you the latest budget information, FY21 budget summary. Very short. The budget itself has changed very little since we last reviewed it. I'll go over that. The difficult part is the tax rate calculations, which are on the following page. We will get to that. If you are like me, when you take a break, I tend to forget many things, including the budget and the changes we made to it. So I will go through that briefly. It's summarized here under budget assumptions. We agreed, and this is as follows, pay increases for all staff, approximately $400,000. Health insurance increases, which is 12.9%. That's calculated at $259,768. Staff additions, to which we agreed, 0.4 FTE for the pre-K coordinator, $26,000. We agreed to 3 additional guidance counselors. That's $264,000. 1 FTE in-school suspension for the high school, $55,000. Arts coordinator for all the schools, a stipend of $12,500. Other additions included the incentive for recruiting school bus drivers, $15,000. Shrewsbury Mountain School garden improvement, $8,500. In addition, these last 2 items were presented at the previous Finance Committee meeting, and the Finance Committee agreed to it, but the board has not seen them. High school garden improvements, $4,000, and high school athletics, football uniform, student trip, and athletic director training, $9,300. We estimate now that we will have 29 Black River students tuition, and the budget, as it has, reflects $168,504 in guaranteed savings for its performance contract. Now, looking down to item 121, FY21 budget summary, that is all the same, lots of numbers there that we have seen previously. I will not read them. The school budget, noted there in bold, for 2021 is $18,863,541. This is an increase of 6.65%. Item 2, education spending grant comparison. We've seen that number go down to equalized pupil, and this is calculated by the state this year, well, next year, next school budget, 772.75. You'll see that that's a decrease of 12.32. That is largely due to that we have lost 11 phantom students. This year's current budget included 11 phantom students. The state did not grant us those for next year, so we took a hit.
And Andy, we're now phantom-free, I believe, correct?
Yes, we're
No ghosts anymore.
no ghosts. So you can see the impact that has upon the ed spending per equalized pupil of $17,716.08, which is increase of 4.25. Turn the page, and we're on to tax rates. Tax rates calculated for 2021 budget is 1.6279. That's an increase of 2.1%. Then we have to calculate in the loss of the tax incentive, which has been decreasing for the last 4 budgets, I believe, as part of the incentive for the consolidation. And that adds, that was this year at 0.02, so that's gone, and that raises our numbers up to, where is it? That's the same, where is the net tax rate? 1.6279. The difference is 3.3%. And then we go down to estimated tax rate allocated to towns prior to CLA. And you got the numbers there. And in comes the bad news, that estimated tax rate allocated to towns after CLA. Clarendon is at 1.6121%, that's a 4.6 increase. Shrewsbury is 1.5900, which is a 7.07% increase. Timoth is 1.7489, which is a 10.04 increase. Wallingford gets the prize, 1.5879, an increase of only 3.93%. CLA really hits the 2 small towns very hard. And so while we have worked hard to craft what we believe is a strong budget that tries to keep costs down while supporting our students and faculty, tax rates really hit some of our towns hard. Out of our control, though. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Well, I guess I had a question that I don't know if Stan could jump in on or not. I know in the past there's been some discussion for consolidation to take all of the consolidated towns to start looking at them as one unit as far as CLA and whatnot. Has there been any more talk about that, Stan, that you know of?
I haven't heard anything about that for this upcoming year.
Because that, I don't know if that would shed help for everybody or not. I mean, that's speculation, I guess. So, anyways, if that comes up and folks have privy to that discussion, and get involved.
Any other discussion, questions, comments?
Will the board members be ready to vote on this? And the most important question is approve it at the next board meeting. Because if you aren't ready to approve it, then we need to continue this conversation.
So are you asking for consensus on that?
Yeah, yes, yeah, I am. I need to have a sense if this is satisfactory to everyone, or we need to go back and work on it.
Anybody?
Well, I'll start the ball rolling. I mean, based on everything that we've discussed in committee, there's no extraneous needs as far as I'm concerned. Everything was fully discussed in what we're trying to do and accomplish pursuant to the, never mind, is related to the goals that have been discussed quite often. So I guess I would be ready to vote next time.
Doug?
Although I'm not ready to vote no, but the budget comes through what it is, I'm afraid we're starting to drift towards something that Clarendon was involved with about 15, 18 years ago, where when we were having problems with some of the education in the school, we needed to throw a warm body into that position. We had, for 1 year, we ended up reducing the student load, reducing the staff load by 9 people. It just dropped off completely. We laid off some very good people because we wanted to change so that we didn't throw a person at a problem. There are other ways of dealing with problems that we have to put into existing staff that we had. I think 9, when we had a staff of probably 34, 35, was probably a little bit high to do that. But I'm worried that we're actually adding people that, on my position on the Personnel Committee, we seem to be hiring at least somebody, if not 1, 2, or 3, every single time we meet, every other week. I think it's getting to the point where we have more people that we really need, we should be having. Now, I'm not willing to bounce off. I think maybe we want to look at that down the road, see what full-time equivalent seems to work, and how many people we're working from either teaching staff moment or paraeducators that are there. I know some of the things we do with, especially with Coral's people that she's working, we have to have those there due to state law and federal rules and stuff. But there may be a way of doing something differently. I know we've made some progress on some of the things that we do with her programs, so it makes the load a little bit less of an issue. I'm just worried about it down the road. I think we need to take a look at it between now and the next time coming up, which hopefully I'll be here. I signed my paperwork this morning, so I'm going to step into it again.
The 3 guidance counselors, where's the anticipation for that?
Intention would be that one of those guidance counselors would be a college and career counselor here at Mill River, which would leave us with a total of 3 assigned to Mill River, and then the other 2 would be split among the elementaries. Perhaps something like I'm making this up, an individual splitting between Clarendon and Tinmouth, and another individual splitting between Wallingford and Shrewsbury, just as an example. And that's in addition to the counseling staff that are there. I don't want to directly contradict Doug's perception on it, but I would argue that this budget is all about not throwing warm bodies at challenging areas. This is about laying infrastructure to navigate and prevent and support some of the more significant needs that we are seeing come into our schools, starting in pre-K and all the way up through our seniors in high school. This is about social emotional learning. This is about supports for students, and these are very targeted to try to set us up well for the future. And they're also deliberately aligned with the goals that the board approved as board and district goals.
And the other question I have, probably more for Stan and my own knowledge, is I know there's a huge push to have pre-K in all these schools. What type of revenue comes from that? Like, is there state helping fund this? I see one line where there is some parental income.
Yeah, so I'll take a shot at that, and then I'll turn it over to Stan to clean up the mess I make. Yes, BJ, there is some revenue related to pre-K, and unfortunately, we're still in the early stages, so we don't have a good read on exactly how that revenue settles. But as an example of what some of those sources look like, on the child care side, we offer before and after school child care, and we do have parents that pay for that service. There are also subsidies we receive from the state for some of the students that are involved in that. And then Stan will know this better than I, but we also do get a smaller than 1.0 ADM contribution, money from the state per student like we do for other kids. Is that a 0.46, Stan? We get 0.46 of an ADM from the state as opposed to 1.0. They are full humans that we have here. Where we get paid for 0.46. But we don't have a good enough read yet on how those numbers are all going to shake out. A year from now, we'll be very good on knowing how that.
I mean, I know what's coming in. I know there's expenses with it, and I just curious in how that shown in this.
Anything I missed, Stan, or anything you would add to
The
that?
only other area that we're currently looking into is grant funding.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? You want to give Andy an idea of if you're ready to vote next week? Because we do have to vote
Yes.
soon.
All of the things that the state is supposed to let us know, that's all been, there's no other surprises coming?
No, pretty much have pretty solid numbers.
Those last numbers were the ones that affected the tax rate numbers, right?
But I don't know the legislature is in session, so we really never know what's going to happen.
Well, this is a true statement.
And we've seen things happen after budgets are approved.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very common.
Well, I have to say I would probably vote yes. Seems reasonable in what you're, and nothing surprising me too much.
I would like to just say that I know that we had some very thoughtful discussions in finance committee meetings about the staff additions, like the guidance counselors that we did decide to add. And I personally feel comfortable with those additions, knowing what we know and the things that we've been told and the issues that we've seen as a board with student situations. And I think that that is money well spent, in my opinion, on our kids, and really services a need that we have. So I think that we were very thoughtful and tried to do our best to address our students' needs and the direction that we'd like to see the district go in, and I think that I'm comfortable with the budget that we put together in that regard. So, Andy, if you could we just need to corroborate for voting purposes the $200,000 unanticipated.
Yes, good memory. I knew I'd.
No, actually, Dave reminded me, so.
So this year, the Finance Committee agreed that to put just get the text right. The unanticipated surplus funds of up to $200,000 to be put towards the building sinking fund. We purposely did not put that as a budget line because that would increase taxes. This is simply moving the surplus over into the sinking fund if we have that amount. And we feel that $200,000 for the entire district is much more reasonable and realistic than $100,000. Because there is still work to be done. And then there's always the large unanticipated items that come up.
And planning for the things that we don't know about yet.
I guess my only comment, and I have no issues with the staff additions. I did earlier, but I think I've been convinced and talking with folks that they are needed. And I'm just gonna make this comment. The health insurance increase of 12.9%, and I know we don't have any control over that, but I think we need to go on record as saying, somehow, and that's $259,000, which is almost as much as the 3 guidance counselors. That's crazy. And again, we have no control over that. So somehow, somebody's got to figure out how to make that so it's not 12% every year.
Well, that's what the state was supposed to do when they took over negotiations for
Yeah,
that,
right.
right? Was to fix that. And
Yeah, that worked
make it so
well.
that didn't happen, right?
Yeah. And
That worked well.
I would vote for it, but that just bugs me.
Frustrating.
Well, one of the alternatives in the healthcare arena is been suggested by our friend Bernie, And if he prevails, then it would probably help the cost of school finances, but would increase all of our income taxes. So, I mean, we could go that route too.
Just bringing us back around, though, can people generally, are we good with the 200,000 for the sinking fund? Because when we approve the warning, we need to have that number in there next
Yeah,
week,
yeah.
so we need to know if that's a number
Yeah.
that we're happy with.
Well, again, in the past, we've had as much as $100,000 going towards a sinking fund for an individual building. And now we're taking it, only 200,000 for 5 buildings, so I think it's a reasonable amount, in my opinion. John?
I think so. I mean, we've tackled a lot of big stuff. We know there's some more things sort of looming out there, and the idea of putting money aside on a regular basis is to, like I said, take care of the things that we haven't figured out yet, haven't discovered yet, and plan for things to be done on our terms rather than when things go kerflooey. So I think it's a good plan, always a good plan to put money aside for future needs, and that's kind of what this is. To try and be a little easier on an individual year's budget, but also plan for future needs, so it's a good number.
Do you have what you need?
Yes, I don't hear any strenuous objections, so next week, these same numbers will be presented to the full board for approval of the budget. There will be, I don't think it will be, but if it will be turned down, there's very little time to make any changes, so we'll be moving forward. I will not be here next Wednesday, but we can still go ahead and vote. We will go ahead and vote.
You will go ahead.
That's what you need to say. Andy, can I ask a question? Before I ask the question, I need to give kudos to the administrators, which I've done before, but those folks work hard to spend conservatively within the budget amounts that are,
Yes.
granted to us by the voters. And what that does is that consistently generates a surplus for us at the end of each budget year. So in our budget meetings, we have a lot of conversation about how to manage that surplus and how to use that. I think it's probably worth talking on camera about how the board decided to tackle that this year in terms of managing tax rate and carrying over funds.
Very good point. Now I have to recall that conversation. There was a fair amount of uncertainty of what was to come in the future year. And can you help reconstruct this, Stan?
Excuse me, sure. If you go over to page 3, that kind of illustrates what we've done with the surplus. If you look in the anticipated column, the fund balance we ended with last year was almost $1.5 million. We budgeted for a $500,000 loss to use that surplus, and we transferred the $200,000 into the building sinking fund, which, in theory, at the end of this year, we're anticipating $823,000 of a surplus. And for next year's budget, we're using $600,000 of that surplus to reduce the taxes or education spending.
Yes, thank you for refreshing my memory and the numbers. I've just been so focused on the tax rate.
Okay. Any other comments, questions having to do with the budget or the sinking fund or the warning? Okay. Then we will move on. Our student board member is not with us this evening, so we'll go on to George's favorite part of the evening, transact other legal business.
I do have an item.
Knew you would, George. You never let us down.
It could be under agenda building, but I wanted to bring it up here. And it relates to the conversation we just had concerning guidance counselors. We have had presentation versus goals and plans to meet those goals, particularly in the guidance area. And I'm thinking that we'll probably get questions from folks in the communities as to why we're doing this, more in questions than what we had here tonight. And so what I'm thinking is that as time goes on this year, I'm hoping that maybe our administrative team can keep us up to date in terms of the thinking and planning for next year, where we're going to have the extra guidance counseling efforts. So that would be a request that I would like to make, to have as part of our agendas as we go through the year.
You bet.
And as I said, I think we'll probably get questions from voters, and we need to be ready to deal with them. All right. That's all I have for other business.
Okay, thank you. So agenda building.
Aha. We may.
Oh, sorry, Steve.
Oh, I'm
What?
sorry.
Oh, the tuition rate, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So based on the budget discussion, I guess we can go ahead and approve the rates that I'm suggesting, no change in the tuition rates for elementary and high school. The elementary rate, again, would be $16,300. The high school rate would stay at $15,500. The logic behind the high school rate is you can't go up, but you can go down. So if we end up having more students come in from Black River than what we are anticipating, we can lower our tuition rate to the sending schools next year. So I thought it best just to keep the rate the same for now, based on what we do know.
So, you need a motion from us?
I make that motion.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving tuition rates for the 2020-2021 school year for $16,300 for elementary schools and $15,500 for the high school, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? There you go. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. And then moving on to agenda building now. We are going to have, are we going to have our PD program at 6 o'clock?
They're ready if you're ready for them.
Sure, and we will be where?
We'll be here.
Here, okay.
And we'll go abbreviated normal board agenda to accommodate for the hour of PD time we're putting in.
Okay, so we will be doing a budget vote. We will do some policies.
Yep, well, hopefully we'll have some policies.
Okay. Pay orders. We're going to need to address the issue of our moderator for our annual meeting. So I anticipate receiving by next meeting a letter of resignation from Jay Kenlon because he has moved out of the district, so therefore legally can no longer be our moderator. And I have someone who I have spoken to who has agreed to step in. The board would need to formally appoint that person to act as our moderator for our meeting in February, right?
Yes.
So we'll handle that, and I'll circulate that information to everybody via email, and we can vote on it at our next meeting.
And what's the town of Wallingford doing about the moderator?
Yeah, and the town of Wallingford is in need of a moderator too.
Okay.
Can we guess who's going to be doing that?
I would
Yeah,
never.
Neither can I. Someone's been roped into doing that, so you can see my lovely face there too. I thought that would be the lovely and easy way out of not having to give a budget presentation in Wallingford, fellow Wallingford board members. So, yes.
Yeah, you're supposed to be neutral in that position, aren't you?
There I am, so I can't be doing anything. I'm just talking a lot, that's it. Some people will do anything to get out of talking, you know. And I think that's it. Is there anything else that we need to add to our agenda for next time? We don't have any need that I'm aware of for an executive session. So, motion to adjourn at 8:10?
So move.
I want to find out who's been ordering all the snow recently.
Yeah.
So I want to find out.
Snowplow guy.
Snowplow guy, George.
I guess so.
That's